young, we have an amazing, positive outlook about how great life is going to be, but somewhere along the line, we forget to dream and end up settling. Join Up Dots features amazing people who refuse to give up and chose to go after their dreams. This is your blueprint for greatness. So here's your host, live from the back of his garden in the UK, David Ralph.
Yes, hello there everybody and welcome to Join Up Dots. This is David Ralph coming to you live from the back of his garden, and I've actually been sharing some images of live at the back of the garden over the last few weeks, and so people have been finding the inner sanctum and what I actually do here on a daily basis. And one of the things I do is I try to get this guy on the show because he's somebody that we had it 3 times. This is the 3rd time that we've tried to get him on, not by his own fault, and I do apologise. He's got up at the crack of dawn every morning to do this. First time, it was a weird technical thing. I just couldn't get sorted at my end. Second thing, he'd booked in. I didn't get the invite. Don't know what happened. He was furious. He was so furious. And so today, he's here and he's ready to roll. And it's quite simple that he's a man with many strings to his bow. No getting away from that. He's also got one of the most unusual stories that I've heard that has got him to where he is today. So let's start with the unusual stuff. That's what I like. So as he says in his own words, a few years ago, a co-worker of mine straddled 2 parking spots while parking a compact car. I watched them do it. He obviously wasn't very busy at the time. Look around to see if anyone noticed and then walked into the building where we worked. I was sitting in my car listening to the morning DJs talk about the start of our huge station promotion, and I was monitoring to make sure they explained it correctly. You see, I run radio stations for a living, and it's my job to make sure the talent on the radio do and say the right things. It's like babysitting extremely talented and temperamental babies who usually drink a lot. Yep, I've been there as well. We're kindred spirits. After they were done talking and started to play the commercial break, I gathered my phone and bag and headed towards the door to the building. As I passed a terribly parked car, emphasis on terribly, I decided to stop and take a picture, and I wanted to expose my co-worker on Facebook and have others join in my jeering of their terrible parking job. A part of me just wanted to poke fun at them, but the more I thought about it, the more I realised that this poor parking job was an extension of something bigger, a sense of entitlement and a slight disregard for others, coupled with plain old laziness. He's got too much time on his hands, he really has. Now, I posted the picture and tagged the co-workers in the photo, and my comment consisted of only 2 words: try harder. And now, with a flourishing blog entitled, you guessed it, Try Harder, which has now inspired 2 books and a business that is rocking and rolling, he is now one of the top minds in radio broadcasting and is enjoying success as a talent coach, where he's advised and mentored hundreds of personalities to make them among the top talent in the industry. He looks like he's really found his thing. So from one single bad case of parking, his life has now gone in a totally different and exciting direction, where new doors are opening every day. And did he ever have the faintest idea that he was on the path to writing a book and inspiring the world to try harder? And are these 2 words that he really lives by daily, or has it just allowed him to raise his game because of them? Well, let's find out as we bring onto the show, to start joining up dots, the most furious guest I've ever had, the one and only Mr. Chase Murphy. How are you, Chase?
I'm good. I've never been introduced as the most furious guest on anything, but
you don't sound furious at the moment. I must admit, you don't sound furious. You should have come out blazing, angry.
I should have. I should have. I have this Irish temper, and I should just come flying and just insult you and members of your family I've never met, and talk smack about your garden and all. I mean, I could have done so many things, but I mean, what an amazing intro. So I was blinded by your introduction and lulled into a sense of calm because of it.
Well, that's what we want. So it's early in the morning where you are. You're an early morning guy, I imagine. Are you somebody that finds their best moments first thing?
So, I wake up at about 5 o'clock every morning, and then I go work out. So I'm a 6-day-a-week workout guy. It's not because I'm one of those gym rat guys who really enjoy it. I eat a lot, and I don't want to be fat. So I wake up in the morning and do this. Well, I have 2 kids and a wife, and so I don't want to come home from work every day and then go straight to the gym. So I get all the me stuff out of the way. But I do find that there's a there is a balance in life, because if I do go a couple days without working out, I tend to get tense or frustrated, or my whole, I don't know, my whole balance is off. So now I've been doing this for so many years, and I'm a frustrated athlete, a former frustrated athlete. So in order to keep the pounds off, and my wife still wanting to, I don't know, be seen with me, I try to work out as much as I can.
It's a key thing that you said there, really, that you don't want to come home and go straight off to the gym, because obviously we talk about the entrepreneurial ventures as on a daily basis on this show, and one of the things that you've got to do is find a way, because most people are in corporate gig when they decide to go entrepreneurial, and so you've got to find that extra time to do it. And more often than not, when it gets to the point that it's your passion, you don't really like going to work, but you have to go to work to sort of pay the bills until your thing takes off. So how do you balance it? So are you somebody that would always put your family first, or do you go for, no, there's got to be an element of sacrifice while I'm getting this off the ground? How would you structure it?
I would say that I have an entrepreneurial spirit for sure. I perhaps do not have some of the go to the, I guess, the ultimate instincts that some people do. I have a lot to lose in the back of my head. So, some people are like, I was, rags to riches story. They had nothing to lose and they went for it and stuff. Where I've actually had I have two beautiful children, a terrific wife, a house, a family, friends and things like that. So the most important thing by far in my life, and it gets me through the bumps and bruises of a bad day at work, or just bad days in general, or just things when you're like, okay, putting things in perspective, I threw everything through the filter of my family. So if I'm willing to, like, okay, a lot of guys have those moments, maybe the Jerry Maguire moments, where they're going to quit and they're going to go do their thing. Where I'm at least a little more rational-minded, going, I have to pay the mortgage. My children, need me to be able to put food on the table. And so I've always been the hunter-gatherer in my family and in my genetic makeup and stuff. I'm a provider. So some people are wired a little bit different. Everything I do is filtered through, what would my kids think of this, or how would the repercussions affect my family?
I agree with you totally. I'm basically Chase Patrick Murphy. I'm you with a sexy UK accent. That's the difference between us, because I really could have done this so many years earlier, but I thought, can I take the risk? Can I take the risk? Until I got to a point when I thought, I can't not take the risk. I've got to give it a go. And once I did that, I realised that actually you can build remarkable momentum very quickly by giving yourself the extra time. And that's why we talk about the slide of faith, Chase, where you don't just quit, jump off the cliff and try to make it up as you go along. What I always think that there are, transitions. You can add a few hours at your weekend. You can do it in your lunchtime at work. If you're like me, when I was at work, I used to work in little sort of pockets of activity, and then I had quiet bits. So I used to turn my laptop slightly away from everyone so I could just sort of do my own work before I actually came to sort of doing the real thing. And we do have downtimes, don't we? We do have downtimes to minimise that risk of actually just punching your boss in the face, walking out and making it up as you go along.
Well, I utilize every moment of my day. So I'm not from a military family, but I'm very military in my approach to my work and my day. So I'm very regular in, I wake up, I go to the gym, I come back, and get ready for work. And then, so the mundane stuff, but even the work tasks that I have 2 columns on a notepad every day. And column number 1 is things that have to get done. And column number 2 are things that I want to get done that are either creative things or things that I want to look at big picture, or stuff I want to get ahead on. And then there are the personal, things that I will work into the second column, because if there is a little bit of time at work, or, that I can I can do some this. And for me, running multiple radio stations is what I do for a living. And in my time, whether it be like I'm eating lunch at my desk, then I start doing some things for the books that I put out. So a little bit of marketing for the books. And then, on my ride home from work every day, this is when I call people back. And so I'm very, militant, and here's the 5 people that called me today. I'm going to call them back on my way home. And then on the weekend. So this is the interesting. Okay, so this is how this eggs into how the book was written. Was I've written every pretty much every word of this book on my iPhone. And whether it was, whether I woke up early on a weekend and it wasn't a gym day or something like that, and I started typing away at 4:30 in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning while my wife is sleeping. I start punching away in an idea or a chapter or some kind of blog or some kind of thing, and then I will say that my daughter takes swim classes on Saturday mornings, and during her swim classes, there's only so much I can watch her jump into the water and jump out of the water. And I don't miss the important stuff when she's learning a new thing or she's doing a challenge or there's a race of some sort. But I write in the hour that she swims. I write my book, and I pretty much wrote #TryHarder during her swim classes or in bed in the morning before anybody else gets up. And so those are my me times. Those are my times to do my entrepreneurial type stuff, or to do what I've always referred to as my side hustle, where I think everybody in life has a side hustle. You have your main job, the thing that pays the bills, and then there's that other thing you like to do. Maybe you like doing it more than your job, or maybe it's something that makes you well-rounded, or something that kind of fills in some blanks in your life and stuff. And so if you'd asked me 5 years ago, or you told me 5 years ago, you're going to publish a couple books in your life, and you're going to do this, that, and the other, you're going to have this website that people are going to go to and are going to read, and they're people you don't even know are going to comment on things you've said. And I would laugh at you because I never imagined myself. My English teachers in high school and college would have never imagined me to be a guy who's writing books for possibly for a living, hopefully moving forward.
Yeah, but you're a communicator, aren't you? You can hear
Absolutely.
it in your voice. You're somebody that can tell a good story. And as you was talking about how you structure your day, I was thinking it's fascinating how we can all get to the same end product of having a successful life or a successful business, but do it in a different way. I've created this phrase, Chase, which I think is brilliant. It came off the top of my head. I shouldn't really say that my phrases are brilliant, but hey, it's my show, so no one can edit me. But it's called flexibly regimental, where basically I have a work rota, because when I started this, it was to get away from corporate restrictions. And then I found out that I was falling so much in love with doing what I was doing that I was having less free time than before, because I just wanted to do it. It's like the most amazing hobby that pays well. Wake up every morning, I fancy doing this, and you run up. So I've had to structure free time in my calendar. So I know that Monday evenings is free, Tuesday evenings is free, Wednesday the whole day is free. I don't know what I'm going to do in that, but I know that I'm not going to come to my office. So I'm flexibly regimental. I know when I'm going to work, I know when I'm not going to work, but I don't actually know what I'm going to do in each. Is that a good way, or would you go, no, that's madness, I need more structure, I need my lists?
No. I fancy myself as somebody who moves quickly on his feet and can move left and right at any given moment. Some of the challenges. One of the other things I love to do, is a passion of mine, is I love to cook. I grew up in a cooking family. I cook 90% of the meals in our house, and so it almost kind of bothers me when I come home from work and my wife's already working on dinner. Not because I will cook something better, but I will cook something better. But because it's a balance thing for me as a creative type. I like to create in the kitchen, and I like the challenge sometimes going, we only have these 4 ingredients in the refrigerator. I'm like, give me a minute, let me think about it, and I'll put together a meal. So I kind of like the tap dance of it all.
But will your kids eat it though? Will you?
Yeah, they will, or they'll go hungry. No, but we do the same thing. Like, people ask me, like, how do you get it all in a day? Because with 2 active kids who do, they're doing karate, they do swim classes, they do piano classes. I mean, these are active kids, and it's summer here right now, but we're not any less active. We're a go kind of family, almost to the point where, we're exhausted at the end of the day because we just get it all in. I would say that we don't waste life at all here. I would say that we take advantage of every moment we have. Sure, there's downtime where we sit and chill and relax, but I think that those are the things you do in life to kind of balance things. Sometimes your brain just needs a little bit of a break, or sometimes you need to do some things for balance, or to your life. But for the most part, we're a go family. We literally go all and we're doing stuff all the way up into bedtime, which is probably why I've had time to write books, and probably why my wife has time to do all her passion projects, and my kids have time to do all their stuff. So I like that you clean the slate for the day. I think that's important. When one of the reasons why I structure my week like I do is on Fridays when it's all said and done, that right-hand column that didn't get accomplished, throughout the week because everything just caught up or so many people were in my office, preventing me from trying to get all my stuff done that I wanted to get done. And I make Friday as my creative day as humanly possible. I wear shorts to work. I wear a ball cap to work. I don't shave. And that's my just like take it all in. If I were to want to do this the way I want to do this, this is the day I'm going to get this done. So if I had an idea of this particular promotion or this particular idea that I wanted to infuse into my radio stations, or talk to a talent about a certain thing that a neat concept or a benchmark that they could put on their show, those are the days we sit around and we do it. And those are the days we take a little bit extra time for lunch. And those are the days, because we're going to meet and we're going to have, conversations about stuff. Those are the days that I just set aside and go, I'm going to write today for the radio stations, not for the book, but I'm going to write for the radio stations today. I'm going to do some funny stuff. So I like my thing is the stress, or not the stress, but the hustle of getting everything done by 5:30 on Thursday, because on a Friday it just gives me that whole like, all right, just be creative, just open your mind, and just whatever comes out, maybe it betters your radio stations.
Right, okay, $1 million question, Ben. So you're uber effective, you're structured, you're dealing with the family, you're dealing with your own life, you're dealing with work. When you get free time, how do you not be bored? Because I find that my free time bores me constantly. The only thing that I kind of vaguely enjoy doing, and this makes me sound like an old man, I like to be cutting edge hip, but this is going to age me. I've now decided that I quite like going around with a watering can, watering my flowers, because I don't actually have to think about anything when I'm doing it. It seems to be like meditation for me. I just get my watering can, I fill it up. Could use a hose pipe, but that would be too easy. I go around and I do that. And I find that that's one of my ways that I can stop thinking, because every other place, if I'm going to watch TV, I can't concentrate because my mind's just on the go all the time. How do you switch off mentally, and how do you stop being bored?
My wife and I actually talk about this from time to time, that I sometimes, after a rough week of work, I'll say, you know what I wish sometimes? I wish I painted the wall, the same wall all day long. And I just did that. Didn't have to think, just had to stroke. But, I have my passion. I grow a garden. I'm a tomato farmer guy. I've got 20 plants in my backyard. I have a sizable yard that, so it takes some yard work. So there's not a lot of, thinking to that. You push the mower back and forth, back and forth. So I do love a little bit of the mind numbing stuff. I kickbox and I just hit stuff. And I don't really think about it too much. I just look at the bag in front of me and I hit it. And so those are some of the things but you're right. Sometimes I talk about, you got to numb your brain out. You got to, because it needs to heal a little bit from all the go-ness to it. But I will say there's an insecurity about me that it's been ever since I was a kid. And that I feel like I have to do more than the average person. I have to double up on the life that I live. And not to, I guess, bring the room down, but when I was 11 years old, my 8-year-old brother died in a car accident. And I decided then, and for some reason this is some heavy stuff for an 11-year-old, that I need to live twice the life, that I need to do twice as much stuff, I need to hustle twice as hard. Because I've never fancied myself as somebody who is the most intelligent person in the room or the most anything in the room. I'm just a guy. I'm trying to hustle. So I always feel like I got to work twice as hard. Not in an insecurity way where like it's showing like that people are like, why is this guy talking twice as much? Or why is he doing this kind of thing? I've got that reeled in where if you see me and you have a conversation with me, you feel like this guy's a pretty confident guy. And I am a confident guy, but there's just this burning thing inside me that I need to double up on life. And I don't want to, I always say when the bus hits me, and whenever the bus comes and hits me, if it's tomorrow or 50 years from now, I want to turn around and everybody go, man, that guy lived pretty darn good.
Yeah.
That guy lived a life worth living. And if I get hit tomorrow, I don't think that I squandered any of the time that I've had in life. People talk about sitting around and binge watching TV shows on a Saturday afternoon and stuff. I just can't bring myself to do that. I like my shows, don't get me wrong, but I'll watch them at 10 o'clock at night after the kids go to bed. But I had this thing, and a couple of years ago, to bookend this, I guess in some ways, my older brother, Michael, passed away. So there once was 3 boys and a daughter, and now there's just me and my sister, from my parents' kids. And so that re-echoed in my brain, a drive to like, now I no longer have to just be twice the guy for myself, but now with my brother leaving a daughter behind in this world and stuff, I need to be twice the dad or twice the male figure in order to make sure I set a good example for not only just my children, but my niece as well.
I know that they're terrible tragedies to have, and I'm so sorry for you. But I'm also fascinated with so many guests that have had rock bottoms and have fought back even stronger. Do you think it has helped you? Although you wouldn't want to go through it again, you wouldn't want to lose either of your brothers, but do we need, as humans, a shake-up sometimes that, hang on, we're only on this planet for a short period of time? Because naturally, with me, the only people that I've lost are grandparents. And you kind of expect them to die anyway because they're old. Sure. And so it just seems to be, I could have just floated along. Fortunately for me, I had this kind of internal switch that was just it was a volcano. It was just growing until naturally it blew and I had to do what I'm doing. Other people will just be sitting in limbo land forever and a day, not realizing that time is precious. So do you think that we have to have this kind of, back to basics, really strip us down of everything so that we can see what life is and what we should be doing with it?
See, I talk about a bunch of this in the book, and you do. I think that there's little things like gut checks along the way in life that you need to kind of reset. You need to realize, like, are these things that I'm doing, are they important, or am I just doing them to look busy, or am I just doing them so everyone else thinks I'm doing stuff? So there's a little bit of that. So on the low end, but I do think that everyone has some kind of you need to. Unless you live just like this numb existence. But you do need to have some kind of light switch opportunity, some kind of moment, some kind of thing that pushes you in a direction that you didn't know you were capable of, or you didn't even think of before. So the first book I wrote was called Pull the Trigger. And Pull the Trigger is a book about getting up off your butt and doing something about it. And the entire book is chapter after chapter, which are in small blog form, less than 1,000 words a piece. I call it those books like bathroom reading or great airplane reading. And the book was written while I was writing the book, and my brother died about midway through the book. And so I guess some of the chapters became a little more about dealing with his death and what I'm going to do. And that's kind of the idea. Pull the Trigger is, my brother just died in his sleep. It's not like an ode to suicide or anything like that. And I hope people don't misconstrue that in any way. But it's just a pull the trigger and moment. I say that a lot of times when I go and it goes back to the gym. When I go to the gym, and there are days you just can't lift or punch or do stuff, and you just, I don't know, days like that, you go to work, you're like, I just don't have it in me today.
Yeah.
And pull the trigger is a thing to motivate you. Like, no, you got to pull the trigger and kick into the second gear. You got to figure out a way to clear your head and move. But the whole book is about the whole life altering moment where, sometimes God or some kind of divine intervention pushes you, shoves you uncomfortably. It's more often than not, you are pushed uncomfortably and kicking and screaming in a direction you don't want to go. And then you realize that maybe this was supposed to be where you're at, despite the pain that you went through to get there. Sometimes that's where you're meant to be. That's where you're supposed to be in life. And it may not be, I always think that if I'm going through a tough time, if I'm having like a bad run at work or something, like, I always think, at least the optimist in me, or at least through my experiences in life, that I know that when I get through this, there's going to be something else to balance this out. I think life has a way of balancing out. You can only get kicked in the moneymaker so many times, and then it's like, all right, you know what? We're gonna let this guy up off the canvas real quick, and he's gonna have a good run in some way. And so it's been like that. So I know that when I'm getting beat up by life or whatever, then I'm holding on to hope and, fingers crossed that this is a short run opposed to like, no, we're going to kick your butt for the next 5 years, but you're going to have a good year after that. I'm hoping that everything balances itself out. So in a long-winded form there and an answer there, the first book was a lot about that. And then Try Harder, which is my new book, echoes and builds from a lot of those pull the trigger moments.
Well, let's play some words before we move seamlessly on to the second stage of the conversation. And these are kind of what you've just said, but I like these, so I'm going to play them again.
You, me, or nobody is going to hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
It does emphasize what you were saying, that it's when you don't want to do it, that is when the true hustle muscle develops. I have a lady in my coaching group, and she said this to me the other day, and I'm reading straight off of her comment to me. So if you hear this and you know it's your words, but do apologise, I've shared it with the world. But she said, there's so many people who refuse to believe that hustle and persistence is what it takes, not some lucky break. What a lot of fitness-minded people don't often like to share, but something I'm very honest about, is that I have days like yesterday or on race day, she's a runner, where I just absolutely smash runs like I was born with little sneakers on. And then I have days like this morning where it feels like I've never worked out in my life, but I go every day anyway because the consistency and perseverance makes a difference. And that's what you said, that's what Rocky said, isn't it? It's the days when you wake up and you think, oh, sod this, I'm just going to sit there with a cup of coffee and watch a film. There's a film on Netflix, and I really wanted to see this film, and it's called The Fighter. And it's got Christian Bale in it and Mark Wahlberg. And I thought to myself, right, okay, I won't work today. I don't feel like working today, even though I've got a lot to do. I'll watch this film. And so I set myself up. It was 10 o'clock on a Monday morning. And I was in that kind of, this is great. People are going to work. It's rainy. People are going to work. And I'm nestled in a sofa watching this film with a cup of coffee. I've got some biscuits to dunk into it. Could life be better? And so I put the film on. And after about 10 minutes, I was thinking, I haven't heard a word they've said. My mind's just sort of elsewhere here. So after 20 minutes, I turned it off. And I thought, I'm going to go back to work. I don't feel like doing it, but there's stuff to be done. I need to push through. And it was that day that I recorded some of my best episodes. It was that day when I wrote some of my best words. It was because I pushed myself through. And it's a real balance, Chase. I'd like to take your opinion on this, where we talk about being in the flow when everything's easy and not forcing it all the time. That is the utopia that we aim for. But of course, there are those times that I just said where you push through and you find the gold because of the effort of getting there. What is your opinion on that? Is it too easy to say that life should be easy?
No, I mean, look, this ain't easy. Living ain't for the, living ain't easy. That's for one. I think that you have to divide it up into categories of things. I think there are oftentimes people put obstacles in front of themselves because they don't have anything else going on, or they don't have any real strife or things to overcome. So it's, you see, we all see that person at work who's like, he's or she is the busiest person in the world, and they just don't have time for this, and they don't have time for that, and they're just so stressed out. And I'm a person who does a great job. I will say this, a great job. I step back and I look at the field and I try to figure out what is important, what's not important, what's going to stress me out, what's not going to stress me out. And where, if things are rubbish or things are just trash in my life, I try to get, anything cancerous, I try to remove it from my life. And, to the point where sometimes it's people, and other times it's things that I think I like or I enjoy doing, but really it's just a thing that is keeping me from getting to where I need to go. And I'm not so bullheaded that I close my eyes and just run through the wall because I just need to get through it. I really analyze everything, I guess, around me. But as far as, I write about this thing that, like Lassie and Timmy falls in the well or whatever, right? And a lot of people who are in life are at the bottom of a well and they're looking up and they're stressed out and there's things and they don't know what to do. But they're only myopically thinking about getting out of the well. And I think that's wrong. because if the only thing you're focused on is getting through something, then you're not doing it justice, and you're just going to fall back into the well. Because if your only thought at the bottom of the well is to get out of the well, you're going to fall right back into it. My thought is, what am I going to do when I get out of this well? And that has been me since I was a kid. Was, am I going to, defeat the bad guy who threw me in the well? Am I going to run away? Am I going to start systematically setting up ways to prevent anyone else from falling in the well? Is more like me, where it's like, okay, I fell in this well, I climbed out of the well. My goal is to make sure I educate everybody that there's a well there and don't fall into it, to put it in some kind of silly common terms. But I don't know, that one always, I wrote that and it always spoke to me, because I think so many people are just so focused on like just getting through the day or getting through certain things, and I don't want to get through the day, man. I want to marinate, I want to soak it in, I want to take it in. I don't want to blink and have my kids be, grown up and I didn't do stuff with them. I didn't see them. I didn't want to be one of those people who looks back and goes, gosh, I missed out on a lot in life, because, I had a lot of life taken from me at an early age. And so, when you're dealt with mortality at age 11, that's not something that, you're not supposed to, you said earlier, you're supposed to bury grandparents and old people. You're not supposed to bury younger siblings or your own kids or, that kind of stuff. And so I don't take anything for granted, and I try to do a good job. And matter of fact, I probably do a little bit of beating myself up on when I do stuff where, like, I should have been there. I should have seen that. That would have been cool. And I missed it.
It's fascinating to me that you don't realise that, or you didn't realise that you are an author. Just the well story, the fact that you are not just looking at the first chapter, you're looking at subsequent chapters of what you're actually going to do at the top, what's going to be that next part. There's a story in you, isn't there? You don't just go for the first part, you go for all of it. I think it's a logical extension of your being that you've started to put words down on paper.
Well, I mean, we're Irish, we're lyrical people. So we do that. My brother was quite the writer, and I've always been a teacher. I like holding court at work. When I have people come and ask me about my craft, or ask me stuff. I do. I really enjoy. I would go up, and for years I would go up and teach a college class, for a couple of days at various colleges, and I really do like enjoying sharing my story and sharing my passion for things, and I think that I got to a point where maybe I felt like I needed to share it with a bigger stage, and that's maybe how how my blog came about at chasemradio.com, is that I started writing, and it caught on, and it now I have a big readership. And when I wrote about my brother passing the night that my dad called me and said that my brother passed away, I couldn't sleep, obviously, so I wrote this thing, which ended up being what I read at his funeral. And the story and the things came off my chest, became viral. It went viral, and thousands of people read it who have no idea who I am or that kind of stuff, but people reaching out to me, and I'm like, okay, I struck a nerve, I struck a chord here with some people. Before that, I had industry people who would read my stuff, and friends would read my stuff. But then this kind of took off. So it gave me all right, maybe there's more to this than I realized. And so I did start crafting the book number one, and then I put it out myself. And then this book, because of what I had done with the first book, caught the attention of the publisher, and they reached out to me. So I don't have one of those weird stories where I submitted 100 manuscripts and then nobody called me back. I literally got contacted by the publisher that I did the deal with, and they said, "Would you like to write a book for us?" And I said, "I've already written a book. Would you like it?" And that's how the second book came about. But as I was publishing the second, I've already halfway written the third book, and I've already written a children's book that I'm waiting to get illustrated, and I'm going to start hustling that here in the fall. So I didn't realize that I do always realize that I'm a man of words. I mean, you are a man of words as well. I mean, I'm a storyteller. I talk on the radio every day, and I have that's been my career for 20 plus years now. But I never realized that putting those words to paper and how they would affect people, and that's pretty amazing and humbling at the same time, that people would take time out of their day to read the words that I say. It's not like I'm a self-help guru, or I went to college to become a writer, or I go to workshops on the weekends or anything like that. I'm just a guy who writes from what he feels and what he thinks and his observations of the world, and people seem to like it. So
yeah, but that's the simple thing. You're not trying to be anyone. You're being yourself. Life has moved on. We see it now that we've got Facebook Live, we've got streaming, we've got people just putting on a phone or on desktop and talking, and it's off the top of their head. But what it actually is out of their hearts. They're not saying stuff to make a sale. They're not making up stuff. They're just doing stuff that is needed to be said. And there's I've told it a couple of times, but there's an amazing blog post that a bloke called John Jerrison just wrote a blog post about how he wasted his life. And I think I'm going to do it again. It's been a long time since we've given this story out, but I think it's really touches into what we're talking about here. But this guy, he'd been in a forum, and this was a few years ago when we didn't have all the sort of instant connectivity. He was looking at this forum and he didn't post anything. And then he posted this one blog post. And from then on, his life changed. And it was because he put himself out there. So this is it. This is from John Jerrison. My regrets as a 46-year-old and advice to others at a crossroad. Hi, my name's John. I've been lurking for a while, but I finally made an account to post this. I need to get my life off my chest. About me. I'm a 46-year-old banker and I've been living my whole life opposite of how I wanted. All my dreams, my passion gone. In a steady 9-to-7 job, 6 days a week for 26 years. I repeatedly chose the safe path for everything, which eventually changed who I was. Today I found out my wife has been cheating on me for the last 10 years. My son feels nothing for me. I realised I missed my father's funeral for nothing. I didn't complete my novel, travelling the world, helping the homeless. All these things I thought I knew to be a certainty about myself when I was in my late teens and early 20s never happened. If my younger self had met me today, I would have punched myself in the face. I'll get to how those dreams were crushed soon. Let's start with a description of me when I was 20. It seemed only yesterday when I was sure I was going to change the world. People loved me and I loved people. I was innovative, creative, spontaneous, risk-taking and great with people. I had 2 dreams. The first was writing a utopic book. The second was travelling the world and helping the poor and homeless. I had been dating my wife for 4 years by then. Young love. She loved my spontaneity, my energy, my ability to make people feel and laugh. I knew my book was going to change the world. I would show the perspective of the bad and the twisted, showing my viewers that everybody thinks differently, that people never think what they do is wrong. I was 70 pages through when I was 20. I'm still 70 pages in at 46. By 20, I had backpacking around New Zealand and the Philippines. I planned to do all of Asia, then Europe, then America, and live in Australia, by the way. To date, I've only been to New Zealand and the Philippines. Now we get to where it all went wrong. My biggest regrets, I was 20. I was the only child. I needed to be stable. I needed to take that graduate job, which would dictate my whole life. To devote my entire life in a 9-to-7 job, what was I thinking? How could I live when the job was my life? After coming home, I'd eat dinner, prepare my work for the following day, and sleep at 10 p.m. to wake up at 6 p.m. the following day. God, I can't even remember the last time I've made love to my wife. And yesterday my wife admitted to cheating on me for the last 10 years. 10 years, that seems like a long time, but I can't comprehend it. It doesn't even hurt. She says it's because I've changed. I'm not the person who I was. What have I been doing in the last 10 years outside of work? I really can't say anything. Not being a proper husband, not being me. But who am I? What happened to me? I didn't even ask for a divorce or yell at her or cry. I just felt nothing. Now I can feel a tear as I write this, but not because my wife has been cheating on me, but because I'm now realising I've been dying inside. What happened to that fun-loving, risk-taking, energetic person that was me, hungering to change the world? I remember being asked on a date by the most popular girl in the school, but declining her for my now wife. God, I was really popular with the girls in high school, in university, college too, but I stayed loyal. I didn't explore. I studied every day. And remember all that backpacking and book writing I told you about? That was all in the first few years of college. I worked part-time and splurged all that I had earned. Now I save every penny. I don't remember a time I spent anything on anything fun or anything for myself, but I don't even know what I want now. My father passed 10 years ago, and I remember getting calls from Mum telling me he was getting sicker and sicker. I was getting busier and busier, on the verge of a big promotion. I kept putting my visit off, hoping in my mind he would hold on. He died. I got my promotion. I hadn't seen him in 15 years. And when he died, I told myself it didn't matter what I didn't see him. Being an atheist, I rationalised that being dead, it wouldn't matter anyway. What was I thinking? Rationalizing everything, making excuses to put things off, excuses, procrastination. It all leads to one thing, nothing. I rationalized that financial security was the most important thing. I now know that it definitely is not. I regret doing nothing with my energy when I had it, my passions, my youth. I regret letting my job take over my life. I regret being an awful husband, a money-making machine. I regret not finishing my novel, not traveling the world, not being emotionally there for my son, being a damn emotionless wallet. Now, if you're reading this and you have a whole life ahead of you, please don't procrastinate. Don't leave your dreams for later. Relish in your energy, your passions. Don't stay on the internet with all your spare time unless your passions need it. Please do something with your life while you're young. Do not settle down at 20. Do not forget your friends, your family, yourself. Do not waste your life, your ambitions like I did mine. Do not be like me. Is that not amazing, Chase? I've put that on the show a couple of times, and every time I read it, I think, how many of us out there could quite easily be John?
I mean, he had an awakening at 46 where, some people never have that awakening, and, they live that zombie life. They just, numb to the things around. There's they say the opposite of love is not hate, it's apathy. And when you bleed your passions out of the world, and this guy just looks like he was going through the emotions, and he was unsensitive to the world around him. Wow, I mean that's some powerful stuff. I mean,
yeah, but it's powerful because it's real, isn't it? That's the thing, and that's what you did. You didn't try to be clever. You just wrote from your heart, and that's what touches people nowadays. That's what we want. We don't want, words that have been structured over hours and hours and hours. We want people to get on to Facebook Live, onto Twitter or whatever, and just be real. It's totally changed the way that we operate and how we build businesses, and of course we build our life, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love the unfiltering of life. I love, in some ways, I love that there are 3 things the editors missed in my book. It makes it real, right? There's 3 typos that the editors missed. After 2 editors that went through my book and cleaned it up, there's still 3 typos. So I love that. It makes it real. I love the fact that that my friends who are English majors, and they're like, well, you could have structured that. You could have said, and I'm like, no, that wouldn't have been me, and that wouldn't have been me from my heart. I love the fact that I have probably a swear word for every 600 words I wrote. There's probably a swear word. I love that it's me. I love that my book is hokey in the sense where I took a bad parking job and turned it into a philosophy on life. And the simplistic of, the people who said, this is great bathroom reading. It's also a coffee table book, but at the same time, some of the words in there are being used in counseling sessions and grief counseling and things like that. So I think it's the imperfect life we live. We don't know what we stumble across until that trigger, that switch in your life, flips on. And this guy, his wife, I mean, to go sit there and not know your wife's been cheating on you for 10 years means you have lived a life of numb. You are not sensitive to the world around you. And the most important thing, in life is to be sensitive to the world around you and realize that your actions are the things you don't do. Most of the time, it's not so much your actions. Sometimes it's the actions you don't take that affect negatively around you. In my work mantra, and the thing that I always try to pass along is that I know you like quotes. It seems so. I've always said you can't get into the Hall of Fame unless the next generation votes you in. And I take a lot of pride in having a lot of people who have worked with me or worked for me in the past have moved on to bigger things that they never imagined, that I saw potential in them that they never saw. And so that excites me. People turn me on, and I enjoy that. I enjoy, helping somebody work through things. And I think maybe that's part of why the book stuff came, because as I'm working through, truth be told, every chapter that I write is something I'm working on probably in my life.
And do you find it easier to see the potential in other people than yourself?
Do I find it easier for me to see the potential in other people over myself? I mean, I think I think instinctively, I think we all see, sometimes we want it more for people than they want it for themselves. And that's a bad thing. And I've been better at going, okay, well, then this person doesn't want it. I need to not invest all this time in this person if they're not going to want it. And so I've done better at that. If you had asked me that question maybe 5, 6 years ago, I would say, I would go to the top of the mountain for this person. I would drag this person kicking and screaming. And now I realize that some people just don't want to be there. But if I were to say, like, yes, I've always saw the potential in myself, and that I've always realized I'm going to be this great man that I've become today and stuff, I think that's a little egotistical. I would say that, but I would say it with a laugh at the end. I do realize that I do more than most. I do realize that I care more than a lot, or at least I think more than most. There's perception that I care more than most people. I'd like to think that I wear my heart on my sleeve on a lot of things, and that I'm not void of passion, that I'm not walking through the corporate world like that guy for the last 10 years and just trying to climb the ladder. And more important than anything, in the last 3 years after losing my brother, I realized the most important things in my life are the people in my life, and how I can affect them, whether it be my initial family and then the circle of friends that I have, or people I reacquainted with because of the death of my brother and everything. And I realized that those are the things that matter. So I could climb as high as I want. I could become the vice president of blah, blah, blah at work, and that's great. But my kids don't care if I do that. My family around me doesn't. They're like, well, he's a better person now that he wears a tie. Nobody says that. Like, oh, it's just, my kids, if I was a janitor at their school, they'd probably think that's cool just as much as, their dad, who goes on the radio every day, and I get to go to all these cool events and these concerts, and they get to meet these stars and stuff like that. They think that's neat, but I think that the people who truly understand and love me for me, I don't think they care what I do. And,
I think that's true. I do think that's absolutely true, and I think it's Steve Jobs, who we're going to hear in a moment, actually. I think he said something along the lines of, being the richest man in the cemetery doesn't matter to me, but going to bed at night saying we've done something wonderful, that's what matters to me. And it's what you're saying it's true. It's on the money, isn't it? It's about how you make people feel. It's the results you produce, and just feeling good about yourself. And I think once you do feel good about yourself, the things naturally occur anyway.
I agree with that. Being the richest man at the cemetery is, that's nobody. That great, you win, congratulations, you won, you died with the most money. Name 3 friends. When my brother passed away, I was like, what could I possibly do? Because I'm big on legacy. I want to, and I said this earlier, when it's my time to die and the bus hits me, or whatever. It's going to be really funny if one day I actually get hit by a bus, because I use that expression a lot. But I want to die comically, so let's do it. But I want to look back at my legacy, and I want to live a life that the people around me are proud of. My niece, I'm the connection to my niece. Her connection to her dad is through me. And so that was the whole. I don't take $1 from any of the books I write, by the way. All that money goes into my niece's college fund / future fund. So I have a savings account, and the money just goes straight to that. So if I sell 1 million books, that'll be great. She'll be set for life. So that's what I can do for her on a financial thing. But the most important thing I do for her is I tell her stories, or that I give her perspective, or that I'm a positive male figure in her life, as well as my children's life. And those are the most important things. We could live in a 1-bedroom shack in or in a van down by the river, and as long as I'm feeding my children with the knowledge and the life lessons that they need to survive and to get through tough times in their lives and stuff. So I guess it's as a parent, those things change. If you were to ask the girls that I dated in college if I were to become the man I am today, they probably would laugh a little bit and scratch their head. But my family and my legacy, which is my family, is the most important thing to me in life.
Well, let's play the words from a man who was an open dropout. He travelled the world trying to find himself, and he left the legacy of words. Steve Jobs.
Of course, it was impossible to connect the dots looking forward when I was in college, but it was very, very clear looking backwards 10 years later. Again, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. Because believing that the dots will connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart even when it leads you off the well-worn path, and that will make all the difference.
Good words, Chase?
Yeah, absolutely. Good words. I think that when you have to look at the playing field and look forward. You can learn from the mistakes in the past, but there's no reason to go back and try to gather them together, decide to connect some kind of thing that led you to where you're at and stuff. You have to go where, it's getting out of that well. It's not, and figuring out what you're going to do. What's your next 3 steps afterwards? So I like that.
So what is your big dot? Always ask this question, but when you look back on everything up to now, was it the parking genius, the person who didn't park very well, or what was it? Something else that has led you to where you are?
My past dots, or my dots to the future.
Your past dots, yeah, big past dot.
My big past dot is probably, honestly, the moment in life where I guess my first big challenge, my first big obstacle, obviously has to be the death of my first brother. Or when I was 11 and he was 8, and he was my younger brother. I think that was a moment where that was a light switch. That was a thing, and I think that a lot of my life and who I am today built from there. There's a couple other things I guess I could benchmarks along the way and little places along the way, but I think that as far as who structured and what event pushed me in that direction that I am today has to be that. And then, I'm sensitive to the world, and I'm a sponge. So I take things in, and I've picked up things along the way, and there's always these little connections that I've made to other aspects of my life. And, where we're all work in progress, and we're all gathering of quotes and things and observations in life. And you just try to cobble them together to becoming who you want to be, and you try to warp those words or form those words into the person that you are. And but I would say that my jump point, that the initial first dot of my life would have to be the death of my younger brother. So and that's where life took me. And in some ways, it took my older brother in a different way, and my sister in a different way, and obviously my parents as well. So that would be my first dot.
So before we send you back in time on the Sermon on the Mic, where's your life heading now? Obviously, you're in radio. You've got a couple of books under your belt. If you could have the ideal life doing the ideal job, what would it be?
That's the... I guess that's the almighty challenge. That is the thing that's probably in my brain. As I've spent 21 years now doing radio, and I didn't have much for jobs before that. Some things here and there that were never turned into something would be careers. But I just, I think that in 10 years from now, I think I'll be doing something different. I don't know what that is, and that's kind of exciting. It's scary at the same time. But once I get kids in college and start thinking about, the next phase of my life where it's just my wife and I, what are we going to do? Who am I going to be? And I think at that point, I want to work for me. I want to work for Chase Patrick Murphy. And I think that excites me. I don't know what it is. I don't know if I'm going to own a franchise and sell chicken for a living. I don't know if I'm going to have published 10 books by then, and then I can, be a writer for a living. But I do know that I want to be around people, and I want to be involved in the betterment of others. And so whatever that is, that's where I'm at. And I think somewhere along the line, divine intervention of some sort, serendipitous feeling, belief, or whatever, that I'm going to stumble upon it, because my life's been good to me on that. Where it's if I'm fighting through something, somehow I stumble upon the right thing, or I see something and maybe I have writer's block, and I see something, and that's the thing that flips the switch, and I go for it. And so I don't know to answer, in a long, verbose way. Probably in 10 years, there's going to be some other thing that I'm going to do with my niece and my daughter going away to college, because they're both 9 years old. My son is 6, and so so I'll have a little bit. So sometime probably in the next 10 years, I'll come up with something. I'll do something. Hopefully it's amazing, and hopefully it can be, I can be influenced and help influence people.
Stop saying hopefully. Say it will be amazing. I will influence people.
Well, I don't want to come across as too egotistical, but I know that it's going to be amazing.
No, you don't have to. I've been on a journey myself. At the very beginning of Join Up Darts, I had trouble telling anyone I was a podcaster, first of all, and then I had this dream in me that it was going to be the number one show, and it was going to be a show that people, would just come to. It's like it just offers something extra, and it took me a long time to actually express that I want this to be a number one show. I want to be known as a podcaster, all those kind of things. But once I started saying it to the world, it started happening. Absolutely. Yeah. And it is that inner confidence that comes out. And even now, I know what you're saying. Even now, I kind of feel a slight blush when I say that. Like, oh God, what happens if Howard Stern hears this? Or what happens, that kind of thing. But still, right. I don't care. Just get it out to the world that this is what I want to be. And I think you've got more of a chance then to make it occur. So let's stop the words, hopefully, Chase, and let's go for the big, it will happen.
I like that. No, I'm a post-it note goal setter. Whatever I'm dealing with, whatever I want to be next or do next, I write down on the post-it note and I put it in front of me. And so to one of the to just pulling the curtains behind, pulling the curtains out here and being a little bit revealing in who I am. I've been doing a better job at feeling like I deserve things. So the word deserve is actually on my computer screen at work in front of me. That just the word deserve. So that I need to do a better job of like, what, I deserve this. Like this is, I should have this success. I should have these things. And I've done that with money career goals. I put a dollar amount in front, in cryptic in case anybody else sees it. They have no idea what that number means, but in front of me. But I truly believe that if you put that out to the world, you put certain, whether it's energy, goals, or even just as simple as writing something down, if you put it out to the world, I think it does true, or at least life takes you in that direction where you could make it happen.
Well, hopefully in front of you've got a post-it or a sticker that says sermon on the mic, because this is your next goal, and this is what we've been building up to, and this is part of the show when we send you back in time to have a one-on-one with your younger self. And if you could go back in time and speak to the young Chase, what advice would you give and what age would you choose? Well, we're going to find out, because I'm going to play the theme, and when it fades, you're up. This is the Sermon on the Mic.
Here we go with the best bit of the show, the sermon.
Oh, that's weird. Bear with me a moment. I'll just do that again.
Okay.
Here we go with the best bit of the show, the Sermon on the Mic. The Sermon on the Mic.
Gosh, there's so many ways I could go with this, but I would have to go back to probably my teenage self, and if I were to have a conversation with the teenage Chase Murphy, I would probably let him know that a lot of the things that he carved out that he thought he was going to be able to accomplish, that girls were going to suddenly take an extreme liking to him once he got into college, as well as once he started talking on the radio, things went to a whole nother level. And so that the confidence that he lacked perhaps in the girl department seemed to come to fruition when he became a college student. But other than that, I was never supposed to think that I was going to go to college. Nobody in my family had ever gone to college, and I'm actually the first Murphy to ever go to college in my family. And I think there was a understanding that like, well, you'll get a job after high school kind of thing. And I had these thoughts about going to college, maybe getting a scholarship playing baseball, or getting a scholarship being a public speaker kind of stuff. And those things did come in front of me. Those things did happen. So I guess if I talked to 16-year-old Chase Murphy, I would tell him, like, man, so many awesome things are going to happen for you. So many things that you put your mind to are going to come to fruition. But you got to have the patience and the confidence in yourself. And if I were to inject anything into the 16-year-old version of me, it would have been more confidence and more swagger and the ability to like embrace the fact that you are good at some things.
Chase, what's the number one best way that our audience can connect with you?
You know what? I'm an open book. So let's start with my website, chasemradio.com. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter at chasemradio. I do Instagram. I do Snapchat. So at chasemradio is the big umbrella where you can get me, hold of me on a one-on-one basis.
We'll have all the links on the show notes. Chase, thank you so much for spending time with us today, joining up those dots. Please come back again when you have more dots to join up, because I do believe that by joining up the dots and connecting our pasts is the best way to build our futures. Chase Murphy, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
So, Chase Patrick Murphy turns up 3 times to do that show, and I think he delivered. I don't know about you, but I certainly think that he delivered perseverance, persistence, not knowing where his life was going, but knowing that he was going to do something amazing. And if every one of us has that thought that we're going to try our hardest to be amazing, then wouldn't life be amazing? Wouldn't the world be amazing? I think it would. Thank you so much for listening to this. This was David Ralph. That was Join Up Dots, and we'll see you again soon. Cheers. Bye-bye.
David doesn't want you to become a faded version of the brilliant self you were once to become. So he's put together an amazing guide for you called the 8 Pieces of Advice that every successful entrepreneur practices, including the 2 that changed his life. Head over to joinupdots.com to download this amazing guide for free, and we'll see you tomorrow on Join Up Dots.